Naughty Dog can't seem to catch a break since their latest teaser reveal back at the Game Awards. I'm not going to comment on that game as everyone else has already said their piece with it. While I have my own opinion on the matter, I'd rather keep it to myself so as to not ruffle any feathers. One thing that I couldn't stop thinking about was the slew of franchises the company had created. All of those titles had come to a close with the exception of Crash, which they don't own the rights to anymore. With everyone up in arms about their new title, people have seemed to overlooked one that was released this month. It may not be a new game, but it certainly is a new release nonetheless. I'm of course talking about the first Jak and Daxter game.
Look, old man, are you gonna keep yapping, or are you gonna help me out of this mess?
I'm gonna keep yapping.
After playing the newly released Sly 2 and 3 ports, I couldn't help but think about the Jak and Daxter game that was released alongside them. If you too missed this announcement, then you're not alone. The promotion tweet from Sony had pushed the game behind the Sly titles. As a Sly fan, this made me a little happy. Even so, I fell prey to curiosity for I never really played the Jak series. After making a video on Sly's new re-release, I decided to buy Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy. I gotta say, for a first game, that's a pretty grandiose subtitle. Before we go any further, it's a good time to tell you that there are two versions that you can buy on the PlayStation Store, at least as of this recording. There's the 2017 PS4 one, and there's the 2024 PS4/PS5 release. Even if you only play on the PS4, I do not recommend buying the 2017 version. It's triple the price of the new one anyway, so there's more incentive not to buy it. The PS5 version has a PS4 version bundled in. The $10 you spend will be worth it if you get a PS5 later on. So if you're interested in this game, be sure to look at the date and the price before purchasing. With this new release being only $10, it's quite the steal. The first re-release of the Jak games, in this case the first game, had a lot of issues. Now, what makes these two different? Well, the 2017 release had major problems, like crashing a lot and its frame rate tanking. Many have also stated that the PS4 port looked even worse than the 2012 PS3 collection. The reason for this stems from them using a much older PS2 emulator to run them. I'd like to clarify that I've never played or owned the PS4 ports, so the information I have is from research on YouTube and Google. This new 2024 release has proven to be a great success in terms of performance. I have yet to run into any bugs or crashes with my 4 hours of playtime. The resolution may not be in 4K, but neither were the PS2 versions of which this release runs identical to. The aspect ratio is something I wanted to touch on as well. I was surprised to see that the game booted up in full 16:9 instead of the usual 4:3. This made me a little worried since I thought all older games were only 16:9. After some research, this doesn't seem to be the case. The original appears to have had this setting as well. While I was messing with some settings, I found that you can change it back to 4:3 as an option. Is there a difference? Well, yes actually. When I tested it myself, the 4:3 is the most you can view, while the 16:9 just zooms it in. A personal problem I had at first was that the camera was too close to Jak, making me feel a little restricted. However, I got used to it and thought that it was just how the game was. So if you feel the same way, then I recommend the 4:3 option. The 16:9 is what I stuck with, so as a result, that's what my footage has been. Moving on, we could talk about loading times. If you haven't watched my Sly 2 and 3 video, then you could check that out after this. Shameless plug aside, the loading times were non-existent. For those that don't know, this game was created to avoid loading screens. The game has loading techniques that it uses to hide the loading screens. This, added with the PS5 making the PS2 classics loading times much quicker, creates a seamless load-free experience for this game. At least from my personal experience. If there was a loading screen, it couldn't have been that long because I genuinely can't think of a time where I waited to play other than the cutscenes. When it comes to issues, I haven't run across any bugs or anything of that nature. If there are such things, these new PlayStation 2 ports have received many updates over the course of their launch. They seem to be a decently good revenue source for Sony, so I assume they will continue to update and enhance their new emulator. The continued push for preserving these old titles by PlayStation is a feat that should be commended. While I didn't beat the game for this video, I do plan on completing it soon. Since this is my first time playing a game in the Jak series, I figured why not make a separate video about my experience with such an old title. With that video being my reaction based on the PS5 release, it would also serve as a review in some way for this new version. This video was just to gather awareness while being a small review at the same time. If I were a diehard Jak fan, I'd pick this up to show Sony that I want the rest on PS5 as well. This game has definitely made a new fan out of me though. With that being said, enjoy the rest of your day and have a Merry Christmas.